When this seminary was founded in 1864, it was founded in part to preserve and also to propagate the basic Lutheran understanding of theology. It was really over against another way of imagining Lutheranism here in this country that said really in order to be Lutheran we had to shed the European theology and pick up rather American frontier theology, the frontier of the revival. Rather than do that, Charles Porterfield Croth and the others who were founded this seminary insisted upon the basics of the faith, and that in the 19th century of course included then the Book of Concord. Now there was a translation, an early translation of the Book of Concord that came out of Newmarket in Virginia in 1851, done at the Henkel Press. That was really outdated, the language was not very good, and there was a lot known. The other impetus was not simply that they wanted to be faithful to the Lutheran confessions, but the whole notion of the Lutheran confessions and of Lutheranism was undergoing a renaissance in the 19th century. Started in Erlangen in Germany, and then influenced people like Croth and others here in this country as they rediscovered these documents and how important they could be for the life of the church. Henry Eyster Jacobs then really had already been working on this material as a theologian and began then working in the 1880s on a new translation of the Book of Concord, and along with that a companion volume, so it's actually a 2-volume set of supporting documents to help people understand the historical context, which was particularly important and had become a kind of new way into these documents in the 19th century as they discovered the importance of history through philosophical movements in Germany and elsewhere, including this country. And so Jacobs then was the first to do this in the 1880s. The next translation or the next publication of the Book of Concord came out from St. Louis, but in the 1920s. And if you can imagine, in the 19th century, there were really two centers of Lutheran theology in the United States. The one was in St. Louis at Concordia Seminary, part of the Missouri Synod, and the other was here in Philadelphia. The difference between the two was that in the 19th century, the St. Louis folk were still speaking German and therefore reading the Book of Concord in the original. But MtAiry was always a bilingual institution. That is to say, they taught in both German and English, and they expected their students to be able to handle both languages, but they predominantly, they lectured and taught in the English language, and therefore for them also then, for that reason also, an English translation was important. So Henry Eyster Jacobs was the first. When the Missouri Synod did theirs in the 1920s, you know what they used for the English? It was Henry Eyster Jacobs' translation. Then in the 1950s, after the war, Ted Tappert, who taught in the line of Jacobs and taught then Reformation and Lutheran confessions here at the seminary, saw it necessary to come up with a new translation. But this was the first ecumenical effort that was done. The translators of the 1959 Tappert edition of the Book of Concord included Arthur Carl Piepkorn, who was a professor at the seminary in St. Louis, and it also included a professor at Chicago, a fellow by the name of Robert Fisher, who translated the Large Catechism, as well as of course, Tappert's own work. So that was really the book for 40 years. Then came our translation, and that was, of course, published in the year 2000, so just 41 years after the Tappert translation.